everybody. Welcome to the Embrium Limited Podcast, where we will be discussing the new album that Embrium has just released, Timekeeper. And I'm Monique.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joey Menicucci. I play guitar in Embrium and also did some vocals on the new album.
One of the things that we thought we could talk about today is a little bit more about how the band was started. So back in 2020, I was really eager to get into a new project. You know, obviously the coronavirus shutdown had just happened, and it felt like a perfect time to start working on some songs that we had kind of kicking around. I had a few demos for our self-titled EP that Joey put some guitar parts onto. I reached out to Jade, who's our other vocalist, about adding some kind of more like black metal-y, death metal-y growls to the songs. And what I basically did in the beginning was I just wrote some ideas down in like a whisper track, which is kind of funny, but it got the point across. And then she sent me something back, and it sounded like really fucking cool. We had plenty of time and we're eager to get rolling, so we took a few more songs and wrote the first 3 Embrium songs with that. During the time that we were writing, I really wanted to record it in like kind of more of like a pro environment. So we reached out to Different Fur, which is this recording studio based in the Mission in San Francisco. And they've been around for a few decades. And we recorded those songs there during the pandemic. And since we were not quite sure on who our drummer was going to be yet, we reached out to Andrew Baird, who at the time was playing with Fallujah. And he stepped in to help us, bring those songs to life. He did an amazing job.
So good.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah, we love you, Andrew Baird. That's basically how it started. And then from there, I just reached out to this awesome logo artist. His name is Gragoth, and he did the logo for Embrium. And it was just kind of cool early on, like since we had so much free time, we got to kind of go at our own pace. And then, that came out. We played a few shows, and then we started working heavily on the material for Timekeeper. I think the first few songs that came about were Hyperion and The Witchening. Those were 2 that we played live a lot with the EP material.
Hey, what was the original title of Hyperion?
Bat Skeletons?
Bat Skeletons.
And I think the Witchening was actually an acronym I used for back in the game, but everybody thought it meant bunnies in the garden.
Yeah, well, it was the first one that was written since the EP, so it was like, all right, we're back in the game,
Yeah, and it was just funny because I always name my Logic files really silly names.
I have a working song named Pizza.
Nice.
Right now.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Joey, could you tell us a little bit more about working on this album and what some of the writing process looked like and where we ended up recording?
The writing process for Timekeeper was cool, and it was diverse in the sense because the album was written over a pretty long period of time. I mean, it's kind of a collection of like things that kind of developed. So it wasn't all written kind of close together. So yeah, I think that led to each song having its own like identity. And I mean, each song was kind of written at like a different point in life when we were inspired by different things, and so it was it really fed into each song on the album, really just creating its own identity. But then, as we kind of wrap things up and, okay, let's actually make this an album, there's a lot of like common sounds and common things across all the songs. So it's got like enough things in common between everything to have like a cohesive sound, but still each song is its own little adventure. And I really like that about the album. Yeah,
me too. A lot of the lyrics on the album are inspired by a lot of my favorite stories. So I feel like it's kind of like a collection of short stories, even though some of the stories they're based on are about much longer topics. And I agree. It's cool how they kind of became their own little moment. And all together, they really blend together pretty nicely. We've talked a lot about the fact that we both really still like the songs quite a bit, and it's like fun to hear them now, that they've been mixed and mastered and stuff from when they were demos. Just because, I don't know, there's some really like fun, like exciting, extreme moments that I think as metalheads, we both really enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah. How about what's one of your favorite moments?
Man, I feel like the Witchening is like just really like explosive.
That's all.
And it starts out kind of like ambient and kind of slow, which is honestly, I get a lot of that from just loving the Mars Volta for a really long time. It's really made me have a bigger appreciation for just ambient moments. And that's one thing I really love about some more like, ambient black metal bands and stuff is like kind of like letting the guitar tones and effects kind of speak for the moment.
That is one thing about this album I think we can say, and that our engineer Nick Loiacono would agree with, that there are a lot of guitar tones on this album. Guitar tones took like 3 full days to like reamp and kind of dial in and everything. So just like the rhythms and the leads and the cleans, there's so many cleans and leads in this album. It's really cool, but man, that was much more of an effort. I didn't even realize. And I think part of that comes from like the fact that the album was written over like such a long period of time. Because like we had so much time to explore different stuff. And by the time it came down to it, it was just like, oh man, like, there's this one tone I had on my Axe Effects like 2 years ago before I sold it that like I tried to recreate. But then I also came up with a lot of fun stuff on the Quad Cortex. So it was like definitely trying to reel it all into one like kind of cohesive sound was challenging, but also really cool.
Joey, do you want to talk a little bit more about how we write songs together?
A lot of the songs on this album are really like definitely like hybrids between both of us. Like a lot of the ones you started and then you sent me like some ideas, whether that was like the first 30 seconds or something, or just like a collection of riffs and ideas. And then it was my job to kind of pull it all together and like add to it and build it into a song. And I really like that because honestly, I think that's like probably where my strengths are as a songwriter. It's like, it's harder for me to start songs. It's like the hardest part is starting a song. So having you send me some cool ideas and I'm like, oh, sick. Okay. I know exactly what to do with this,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the ones that came out like that Eclipse came out like that. You sent me like a thing and I had to sit on that one for a minute before I like really knew what to do with it. But that happened like that. The Witchening, you pretty much wrote almost front to back. I wrote all the like leads and stuff and did that, but pretty much structure wise, I think that one was pretty much that and Hyperion too. That was pretty much, I changed a couple things or like did something, but those were pretty much mostly you, as far as structure goes and stuff. And then I think the Chantry is one that was really a good hybrid because you sent like I think you sent like the first part of it, and then that one turned into a really good kind of hybrid song.
Mm-hmm. I think another way that we've kind of written songs in the past, which has been cool, is like on Awakened, for example. Joey was kind of kicking that idea around for a little bit, and he was like maybe not feeling 100% that it was the right song for Embrium. But I was like, nah, dude, like, send me this file. Let me write some lyrics.
That one was on the chopping block for a while.
Yeah. And
crazy.
Yeah.
Came out
honestly,
so cool.
It was just cool how the lyrics all came together because they really just kind of fell out of my head. It was really cool how the final product really came to life, especially when Jade added, vocal components on there. Sounded pretty badass.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that one is a cool one because, like you said, you wrote that one about Claymore, and I read the lyrics first and then kind of like, and heard the vocals before I ever watched Claymore. And, we watched after like knowing what the song was about and kind of seeing like the sound of that song and how it came out. Then I watched Claymore and got to the point, basically where like what the song is about, up to the point where that like ends. And like, it was really cool. I was just like, damn, we kind of captured the vibe of this, like, character and how she's feeling when she looks at, remind me the name. Priscilla. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just really cool. After watching the thing, I'm like, dang, we did good on that one. That came out good. that was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, without trying to be too nerdy about it, like I've always felt that some of the stories I was reading or watching about in animes or manga were so, so cool. And I thought it'd be cool to incorporate elements of those stories into like Embrium's lyrical ethos, basically. And, you know, not that I want to write every song about like anime or video games or something, but just sometimes that's how it works out. And I get inspiration from pretty much everywhere. So, you know, it was just fun to have that moment in there. Same for Eclipse, you know, like that really started as like me just wanting to be like, damn, I want to write like a sick song about Berserk. But, you know, I had heard a few that people had on Spotify, and I was like, oh, these are all kind of whack. So I wanted to make one that was like kind of brutal and interesting and capture the vibe of how I felt after I read the Berserk manga, which was fucked up.
And, you know,
I feel fucked up, but it was great. It was really, you know, I think I like binged it in 2 weeks or something, and it was during the pandemic, and I was just like, every time I'd walk in the room with Joey, and I'd just feel like, oh my god, like what the fuck, but, you know,
that one was cool too, to write that one, because like I hadn't seen Berserk. I still haven't watched Berserk. I still gotta watch it.
Yeah, we've only seen like the first movie of the Golden Age trilogy that they released, but that's okay. There's still time.
Well, but you gave me a good idea of what it was about, so I feel like I had a decent idea of at least the story, and so I knew that one had to be heavier than the rest of them. But like it was challenging to kind of land on something that wasn't too heavy for Embrium or something, you know. I kept writing like evil prog metal for that one at first. Like it was just like I came with so many riffs. I'm just like, this is not like Dark Tesseract or something. This is, you know, so like that's one thing for Embrium. It's like it's been one of my favorite things about our music is that it does kind of sit in this really cool middle ground between black metal and shoegaze, but just from a songwriting perspective, it really draws the lines really well in terms of like what fits and what doesn't in this project. And I really enjoy that about our songwriting. And it's also really frustrating because I'll write something cool and I'm like, I love this, but this is so not our vibe. But like when you land on something, I'm like, this totally fits. And like, so there's plenty of ideas to be had in this band, but it's a really cool blend of like things that I like about music.
Yeah, especially when you talk about songs like End of the Lane, which really just came together because I wanted to have like I don't know, I was really inspired by bands like Opeth and Wolfheart. Yeah.
Oh, they're good.
They have a lot of, like, those kinds of bands have like a lot of really cool acoustic intros, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want it to be...
Always good to have a nice, tasty acoustic.
Yeah, and, you know, we'll talk a little bit more later on about the acoustics that we got to use on there for my old coworkers at SF Guitar Works, but it really worked out. It sounds really cool.
That song totally transformed.
Yeah, really did.
I don't know if you will ever hear the initial versions of it, and it wasn't bad by any means, but man, that song totally like took a 180 just in terms of, I don't know, the overall sound, and it started cool, but man, I don't know. It came out so many little things added onto it, and it came out so cool.
One of the songs I've always really wanted to cover is Televators by the Mars Volta. I had like an idea kind of how I wanted it to sound, but I couldn't really get past like the intro.
That one took some sitting on from your perspective, because I know you really wanted to get it to something that you were happy with. So that one was the last one to come together for the album, and it was cool because I had listened to the track. I'm not a huge diehard Mars Volta fan like some people are. I love them, totally respect them for being really great musicians, but I don't know, just never got too deep into it.
Yeah, they're kind of an acquired taste. It's cool. I mean,
like a fine smelly cheese.
I've been a fan of this for a long time, and people either like fucking adore them or they hate them.
Yeah,
that's cool.
There are some songs I really like.
You just got to admit that John Theodore is one of the best drummers like ever. He's so good. Really good, so inspiring, and just he really knows how to like play in the pocket when things slow down. But then when the song is intense, he rips. He's so good.
Yeah, everybody loves a ripping drummer, you know.
Yeah.
Televators is a really good track. There's a lot of great like melodic quality in there, and you know, just listening to it from a kind of unbiased perspective, I was just like, oh, this is like, I could totally hear what we would do with this. And it's really well written. The lyrics are very strange, but still like very interesting. And I was just like, okay, yeah, this is going to be cool. You know, because obviously we didn't want to do like it's such a unique song in terms of like the instrumentation they use. And so it's just like, okay, we definitely are not going to do this like 1-to-1 and like, you know, get a stand-up bass and do that. Love that about the track. But so I was like, okay, you know, we got to make this into an Embrium sound. So it really came together like almost overnight. Well, I had so much time to kind of just sit and think while you were kind of doing your thinking on it. Like I had time to be like, okay, what do I want to do with this? So by the time you kind of sent me some ideas for it, like it was just like the floodgates opened. I literally like that thing came out overnight almost. And I remember you were sleeping and I was like, Money, I finished Elevators. It came out pretty sick. And you're like, really?
Yeah. It's funny when you're like in a band with your husband because like sometimes you'll just be like,
that could be its own episode.
Yeah, for sure. It's really great. Yeah, when you finished sending me that version, I think I just sat down and wrote all of the clean vocal parts and the growls. I wrote those down in a whisper track. And I knew from the very beginning that we wanted to have our friend Kyle from Fallujah sing on it because he and I have talked about the Marzulta a number of times and he seemed down, so we hit him up and I wrote some whisper parts for him. And I think he really just like adds a whole new level of brutal to the track, you know? It just sounds like it was so funny because he was on tour with Fallujah. They had like a 6-week tour or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple months.
Yeah, they
Europe,
were gone. And so he had like a very short time period to get it in while we were in the studio. And it was just so funny because like he's like, oh, like I'm probably not gonna sound that good, like my voice, you know. And I was like, totally valid, man. Just like do your best. I'm sure it'll be great. And then he submitted the clips and he just ripped it so hard, like it sounded amazing. And I was like offended by it, you know. Like he's like, oh, I just got back from like 2 months of tour. I'm kind of rusty. I'm like, bro, this is you, rusty. Like get the fuck out of here. He totally killed it. You want to talk about what we're most excited about for the album? Oh, yeah. I have a lot of things that I'm excited about for this album. Making a vinyl was like a lifelong bucket list item for me ever since I started collecting vinyl. And we talked about it a lot. We were like, definitely need to do a vinyl, like if it's financially possible. And I think we ran some numbers and it was just like, not as much as I thought it was going to be for some reason. I think I was just assuming it was going to be like completely unavailable to us as tens of thousands of dollars people. Or something. But yeah, it ended up working out great. And the artist that we worked with, Yasin, who did an amazing job with like just, you know, brainstorming the ideas of the artwork and kind of working with us and like working off of like, you know, Canva mock-ups and like pictures that we sent him, just really cool stuff. And I'm also just like really excited to bring Embrium to like a greater audience. And I know like our last EP came out like, you know, a couple years ago, but you know, we never really stopped working on music. We just, lots of life things happened between like the EP and now. And, you know, really within the last year, I was feeling really, really inspired to just kind of finish it up and get it out there and share it with people. I'm really excited for people to hear it and love it or, you know, some people might hate it too, and that's cool. What are you most excited about the album coming out? I mean, the vinyl for sure is definitely something because I think both of us have never like held a vinyl and it's like, this is my band, this is my music, I worked on it. You know, just the fact of holding a physical form of media and saying this is my thing that I created, like it's like there's, as an artist, you know, that's so satisfying, you know, and vinyl is just awesome. It's just a cool form of media, you know, and it's totally its own thing. I mean, it's kind of a ritual of like putting on music. And so it's very like respectful to the music. And it's just like, it's the most like genuine form of music, I think, for many reasons. But yeah, so that's what I'm most excited about. It's just to be able to hold that in my hands, hang it up on the wall, you know, like be able to share that with other people who approach music and approach vinyl that way. That'd be really cool. Yeah, especially since we just upgraded our home like vinyl listening station. And the rabbit hole is deep. I mean, you can have a
few $100 setup, or you can have a $30,000 setup, you know?
Yeah, like that place in San Francisco, Music Lovers.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I would love to go there.
I think I interviewed there for a job, and after I was done interviewing, they're like, "Oh, do you have any more questions for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, can I like go in the room and like experience like these these crazy like $50,000 like audio setups?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So they put on some music for me, and I just remember thinking while I was in there, because I think they put on like some jazz, and I was like, "Where are the blast beats?"
Well, speaking of that topic, I mean, you know, you've heard what like really crazy high quality sound stuff sounded like when you went to Sweetwater, right?
Oh yeah.
Why don't you talk about that?
When I worked at Seymour Duncan, we were invited to GearFest in Fort Wayne, Indiana at Sweetwater's HQ, and that was last year. I think it was like June or July of 2023. It was really cool. You know, I think a lot of people were really happy to meet MJ, who's like their custom shop, like maestra. They had all these like audio recording studios that were just like state of the art, like, you know, hey, you need like a different amp, we'll go get you one kind of deal. And it was just, it was amazing. And they're so sweet and so nice. And I just really respect those people a lot. But the coolest part was that they have a Dolby Atmos studio that is just phenomenal. But yeah, it was really cool just to get to check out Dolby Atmos and like it's like intended environment. So the first song they showed us was Animals as Leaders, Red Miso. Oh. And I just remember like sitting there being like, oh my God, like this sounds so good. This sounds so good. And my coworker actually got a really funny picture of me being like, oh, like just living in the moment.
4D Animals as Leaders, just as nature intended.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I would love to go back out there again and hang out with those. I mean, it's just a really cool place, and they obviously care a lot about what they do for musicians and as a company, and just really fun times. But
did you get candy while you were there? That's the most important
You know what's
thing.
funny is I don't think I did.
What?
Yeah.
I saw Misha Mansour did a tour of Sweetwater, and he like posted like a little clip of like their giant like box of all the little candy bags, and I'm just like. It's like 10-year-old me would be like, can I just dive in there and just live in there? I
did get to go around their awesome store that they have there. They have like a built-in music store. And oh my God, just incredible stuff. Like they had, the best thing for me was that they had all these like fancy headphones that you can try out, you know? And how often do you get to like go to a music store and try out your pick of fancy headphones? So that was really exciting. They also have a pretty cool like consignment room, which had like all these crazy microphones in there and just like some cool guitars and stuff. But I did my best not to buy anything. I totally failed. I bought a DJI lav mic set because we really needed one. But yeah, kind of going back to like what we're excited about for the release of this album. I mean, one of the things that's really been driving me through this process is just all of the friends we've made that are in big metal bands. And I really wanted to present something that I could be proud to share them. Like our friends in Death Angel, or like our friends in Insomnium or Omnium Gatherum, or even Astronoid. You know, I wanted to really make something that I could be like, damn, you know, like, listen to this. Like, you know, all the inspiration you've given me throughout the years, like, this is what that's resulted in, you know? And
totally.
I think I'm really excited to see the reactions of some of those people that we call friends, and, you know, hopefully they'll like it as much as we do.
Yeah. And it would be good to like be able to tell people, like, how flattering must that be if you hear an album that's like, you know, maybe it's something that you think is really cool, and then you find out that like the people who wrote it were inspired by your music. You know? I mean, I don't know what that's like, but maybe in a few years someone will come around and be like, dude, I listened to Eclipse and it made me want to write this album.
Yeah, I've had like some moments like that with like some of my favorite musicians that I've met, where I've been able to be like, you've inspired everything about what I do with guitar. Like when I met James Hetfield, I was like, bruh.
It's probably like, all people can say.
Yeah, I was like, you're literally the reason why I play rhythm guitar, you know? And like, I'm in awe of that right hand, like down picking technique. He's got to be put in a museum. Man. Yeah, he is the riff lord. And, you know, I think that it was fun to share that with, I mean, I'm sure he's heard that a million times, you know, but I'm adding another ticket to the pile. So yeah, we have a a couple physical releases that we are doing for this record. And we're doing 100 pieces of our limited splatter vinyl. You'll be able to order that on our website, embriumofficial.com, or also on our Bandcamp, which is just, I think, embrium.bandcamp.com. We'll also be doing CDs and stuff too. I think, we'll kind of see how it goes, and, be down to do more like kind of merch like that in the future. You've been listening to the Embrium Limited Podcast series, and we thank you so much again for your support of our new album, Timekeeper, which is out now. And we look forward to hearing all of your feedback, and your support has been invaluable in this entire journey, from friends and family to even some of the fans that we have already. It's been really astronomical, and I'm happy that it's finally out in the world. And can't wait to see what comes next.
Be sure to check out Timekeeper on all your favorite streaming platforms, and hit us up. Tell us where you want to see a show.